Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accounting professionals just like you come to learn the most efficient and powerful ways to grow their firm, sharpen their sales skills, and have consistent increasing revenue. We cover topics from sales, networking, handling objections, negotiation, pricing, finding those ideal clients, and how to get rid of the ones that just don't suit you and how to set those boundaries so you can stop giving away your time, working for free, putting yourself on sale, and really start to get paid for the value and the worth that you bring to your clients. You'll learn tips, strategies, as well as hear others from personal interviews from successful accounting professionals. This podcast will show you exactly how to create the firm and life of your dreams full of abundance. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest and a very, very important topic. So make sure to have a pen and paper to take notes today. But before we welcome our special guest to the show, as many of you know, I've been helping tax and accounting firm owners have more freedom and time and money, get paid first and upfront, but confidently charge the fees they know they deserve. I know our system works and that I can help you create the firm you've always wanted, but it's up to you to take the next steps. So head on over to theabundantcall.com to book a free session with my team where we're going to cover three main things. Right now, where your firm is at and the things that have been keeping you stuck and overwhelmed even maybe this past tax season. Where you want to be in your firm and your life to ensure you're paid first, avoiding all the pitfalls along the way and saving you a ton of money in the process. And the exact next steps to take to double your firm revenue for the rest of this year. Every one of our success stories had started with this phone call, and it's turned into more confidence, charging premium fees, doubling top-line revenue, eliminating burnout, and feeling excited about your work again and being in control of your firm and your future. So head on over to theabundantcall.com. Now, our very special guest is a nationally recognized speaker and educator on federal tax law matters. He is an editor-in-chief of EA Journal, the co-author of Passkey Learning Systems EA Review Series, and co-owner of Compass Tax Educators. He's an EA, he's a certified tax planner, a National Tax Practice Institute fellow, a certified tax resolution specialist, and admitted to the bar of the U.S. Tax Court as a non-attorney. Our special guest is Tom Gorczynski, and he has Tom's tax practice in Phoenix, Arizona, where he focuses on implementing advanced tax reduction strategies and representing taxpayers with complex tax problems before the IRS and in the U.S. Tax Court. Now let's welcome Tom to the show. Welcome, Tom, to the show.
Thanks, Michelle. I hope you've been doing well.
Yes, and I'm very excited to have you back here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. It's always super fun to have you here.
And thank you for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I think you're a wealth of knowledge and a true genius, and I think others might believe and think the same. But for those people that don't know you, real quick, could you share with us in 30 seconds to a minute who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Tom Gorczynski. I'm an enrolled agent, a United States Tax Court practitioner. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm also a nationally known tax educator. I teach all over the country. I have a mastermind group called the Inner Circle with Tom, where I help tax professionals answer the most challenging questions and help build profitable and efficient practices. I also have a newsletter called Tom Talks Taxes that provides accurate technical information that's important for tax professionals to know. So I've got a lot going on, Michelle.
That is a lot. I'm very honored that you took out the time to be here with us today. And,
Absolutely.
You know, tax season is now on the end. It's behind us. And
Yes.
I think it's really important to think about, and you have so much insight on this, how to prepare right now for next tax season and creating that top 10 list of areas to assess in someone's firm So I'm really excited to put together this list with you, or go through it, I should say. So for those of you listening, you might want to grab a pen and paper because, like Tom says, this is proactive practice planning
Yes.
now while it's fresh in your head. So you have it written down, you don't forget. And, because most people, from what I hear from many firm owners, is that, Michelle, I'm just not going to do what I did last year. I can't do it again. I can't burn myself out. I can't work with those clients. And I'm going to make all these changes one day. And then the next year comes around and those changes aren't made. And then the next year comes around and it's like, I can't keep going this way. I'm going to, not make it. I'm working 12, 14, 18-hour days. I don't want to continue this cycle. But yet every single year after year after year, the cycle still continues.
Michelle, and the reason why that happens is we get caught up in taking a break after season. We might have some extension stuff to do. We'll worry about planning for next tax season after the September/October deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
And then that rolls around, and then you only have 2 months to make what are serious and intentional changes to your business.
Yep.
And it's just not enough time, frankly. So when we start the change process for our practices, when it comes to pricing, automation, efficiencies, we need to start early and look at it as a solution we take small bites to over time. Because if we don't, it's unmanageable. We stick our head in the sand.
Yep.
And we'll do it next year. And then 10 years later, it never got done.
Yes, that's exactly correct. And then once we're fed up and sick and tired of the way we've been going, not seeing our families, not seeing our kids, and having a lot of health challenges, then maybe that's the time when we want to make a change. But sometimes it's almost too late. So I'd love to hear from some of the clients that you've worked with, other firm owners that you've mentored in Tom's inner circle for the last couple of years, creating this list of areas to assess in their practices where you've seen success from other firm owners. And I think sharing some really great stories today will be more impactful because we can give you a list of some of the biggest mistakes other firm owners made, but I'd love to share exactly how did they fix that mistake? What was that solution? And take us to that place of that firm owner. How were they feeling before? What did they do to make that shift and change? And how did that shift, being one of their biggest mistakes, never happen again in their future? So That's what I thought we would discuss today. So for each of you listening, please take notes. Tom always has so many golden nuggets. And we'll get started, and hopefully we get to 10 different areas. But it's more important to hear, I think, and I'm sure each of you has some areas that you want to assess in your firm, and you might want to write those down right now. For example, people should be considering their pricing for next year. That would probably be one of the areas that you would want to assess at the top line. Tom, what have you seen for another firm owner who's considered their pricing, make the change? How did it work out for them, and what did you see through that process?
I've seen actually several firm owners that I work with who really took the plunge and changed how they priced. Partially due to my influence, actually, Michelle, partially due to your influence, to be completely honest. And they've all had fewer clients during season, and their revenue has been around the same amount. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them were very surprised because the fear mentality says, I'm going to lose all of my clients. This is going to be a failure. It's not going to work. One of the firm owners that I work with, let's call her Sharon.
Okay.
Sharon said to me in a call just the other day, because Sharon raised her minimum fee significantly for
What
this
was it
season.
before, and what did she raise it to?
I believe it was in the 200s, and now it's 695.
Okay, that's significant.
She said this was the first tax season so far that she hasn't cried during tax season.
Yep.
It's also the first tax season where she's not consistently 3 weeks behind in work.
Yeah.
And
no,
so
it's powerful. I mean, to not cry during tax season, I would say that's the norm for many homeowners right now.
right. And the norm is to feel so far behind that you're never going to dig yourself out. Right. And, you know, $695 a month, that's a very good average minimum price for the level of complexity that we have to deal with, in my opinion, in tax returns going forward. You know, the reality is the tax world has gotten more and more and more complex. People need additional help, services, guidance, and the returns themselves take more brain power to do during season, which means you need more space. And in fact, Sharon also said that because she's had fewer clients this year, she's identified errors she made on prior year returns because she was so stressed in pushing them out on time, which I thought was a very honest conversation to admit to.
Yeah.
Also, that the space has allowed her to provide more ongoing planning and advisory and working with the clients to give them what they really wanted, which was ideas to help their overall financial and tax situation.
Yeah. And I think that's crucial. And I think one of the other ways when you were saying space, provider of the space, another area to assess is if you have a brick and mortar office, to assess physical space. Can you go virtual? Can you go remote? I know a lot of firm owners have made that transition. Right. However, there's still a significant amount that are paying for a lot of overhead that can reduce completely and reduce expenses. So that would be another area to assess. But it's interesting what you're sharing about Sharon. We'll call her Candace. I had a client today, Candace. Her year-over-year revenue from the January to March was $12,700 higher this year. She didn't feel as behind. Same thing like Sharon. And she was paid 100% up front. She made a commitment to herself that starting this year, she would no longer accept payments after the fact. Because I think there's a lot of firm owners not billing or just, I'll get to it later, or sending the invoices in the future. And I would say that's another area to assess is how are you doing your payments? Are you getting paid up front? Are you getting deposits up front next tax season? A lot of my clients have been having people reserve their spot. So you know the quantity, the volume that will be coming to you that next tax season, instead of just wondering, am I going to get all my clients back? Am I going to have more plus referrals? How many do I need to get rid of? How much staff do I need? How do you deal with the capacity? Well, if you have deposits from people and reservation fees, it's similar to, I'm sure, I know, Tom, you guys go out to nice dinners all the time. Well, lately here in San Diego, and I don't know if you've experienced this in Phoenix, in order to go somewhere nice, you have to put a credit card down for $100 per person reservation fee. And if you don't show up, they're going to charge you. So that's for just dinner. We're talking about someone's financial responsibility in living in this country to do a tax return. How come we're not charging a reservation fee? So I think assessing and I can't keep track of how many things we just put on the list, but we have pricing, we have brick
Yeah.
and mortar virtual, we have reservation fees, how you're doing your payments. Are you collecting up front? Are you going to do the invoices before
Right.
you deliver the return? Or are you going to just do it at the end of the season and hope you remember everybody? But Candace, wowzers, she made a 180 in her firm. And she said, I never want to do that. But I think, do that again, meaning the way she'd been running herself and just feeling so behind.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's just really powerful. So
Well,
kudos to Candace and Sharon.
Michelle, I think we're going to give people like 30 items to consider here,
Well,
not
let's just
10.
max it at 10 so we don't get everyone too overwhelmed. Because I
I
think if
know.
you make these 10 changes now and prepare for next year now, I think you're going to have a different outcome and you'll be prepared. Because a lot of us, we're just going, going, going. And then, it's October deadline, and then it's Thanksgiving, and then it's Christmas, and then it's New Year's. And then it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't do any of that. So if you do it now and you
Right.
create your systems and put it in place and send out notices to your clients to let them know, hey, here's what's happening, then you don't have to worry about any of that later on.
Michelle, can I give you two more examples of colleagues of mine?
Yes.
These two individuals are friends of mine, but we've discussed some changes they've made in their practices, and I think that the listeners would find it very useful. And the
Is this
reason,
another thing to add to our list?
yes, the reason these two folks have been successful in transforming their practices is they have honed in on a specialty, a niche, where they have made themselves out to be true experts in that area. So let's go through the two people.
Okay.
One, we'll call her Sarah.
Okay.
Sarah, her firm minimum is $5,000 a year.
Okay.
That's the entry point to working with Sarah. Well, Sarah, after hitting about 35 or 40 clients, decided I'm full because I have enough to meet my needs financially and to not work too much during the year.
Mm-hmm.
And this fee, of course, is it's for ongoing work throughout the year. It's not just the return. And in fact, people have approached Sarah saying, hey, last year we talked and I wasn't ready to move forward. I'm ready now. But Sarah said, no, I'm at capacity. I'm happy with where my business is. Let's take my other colleague. We'll call him William. William, again, is in a high demand specialty area. And last year,
what is the specialty?
I'm not going to say because it might give it away.
Okay.
So William killed himself last year with so much demand for his work. He was working unhealthy, excessive hours. This year, it's down to 35% of the level of last year, to the point where William can do a return or two a day, and that's sufficient at the pricing level that he changed to.
What did he change to?
I don't know the details, but all I know is that William, in the middle of tax season, took a European trip.
Yep.
I'm going to Hawaii next month.
Yep.
Because we've designed our practices that the priority is us. We've built our practices such that the pricing, the number of clients allows us the space to do those types of things and not kill ourselves. Now, does that mean that not every taxpayer can have access to our services? Yes.
Yep.
But the reality is, when you have a specialization or when you have specific knowledge base, that allows you to charge more for your knowledge. And that means that not everybody is going to be a fit for that firm. And honestly, we have to let go of the fact that we can't help everyone. And when we work so hard, like Sharon, when we try and help everyone, we actually don't help them because we don't give them advice. We make errors on returns because we need the space to ensure accuracy. We need the space to help give advice and planning. And that, in my view, is where the future of the accounting profession is headed. Not in churning and burning 15 returns a day where the taxpayer gets a piece of paper, a pat on the head, and come back next year. They don't see value in that. And in 10 years, AI is going to automate those types of clients out of our portfolios.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Tom, with these two examples that you just shared.
Yes.
And picking their niche, and with William killing himself last year at the demand, but now he's down 35%, but still going on vacation. And then
not down 35%, 35% of last year. So down well more than half.
Okay. My math was wrong.
Yeah. So significant decrease, because again, that was a breaking point for him.
Yeah. Well, and also with Sarah being at capacity, saying no and making sure that every client is generating a minimum of 5,000, and now she's turning away people.
Right.
What would you say for someone who wants to plan and schedule their niche properly for next tax season? What would be the biggest impactful exercise for them to do right now to make this decision on who is the ideal client, who's not, and what's the specialty that I'm going to focus on?
I look at it this way. When you look at your client base now, pick out those clients who spark joy. Who are the ones you love to work with? And once you've picked them out, is there something that binds them together? Is it a type of business? Is it a geographic area? Is it an area of tax law that you know really well? What is it? Why are those clients sparking joy? Because that's the type of niche you want. You want a niche where every client is going to make you happy and excited to work with them. And if they're happy and excited to work with you and you are providing value in that engagement because you are excited, you have ideas, you're proactive, you're able to charge an appropriate value so that it's a win for you and it's a win for them.
And your perceived value increases.
Yes, absolutely.
So the value of William or the value of Sarah, their perceived value from clients and new people and referrals has now done a 180. They're now perceived as a much more quality, highly skilled professional that not everyone can have access to.
Right.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. So we have a list so far. It is pricing. It is their reservation fee, or how they're going to invoice and bill in advance instead of dealing with accounts receivable. It's picking a niche and getting somewhere in the specialized department, just like Sarah and William. And I also hear on one of our lists to assess is prioritizing yourself. I think figuring out how much revenue do you want to generate next year, and what is the minimum per client. So you're really good at math, Tom. So if it's 100, let's just say you want to do 100,000 in your firm.
Right.
And you have a minimum of $5,000, like Sarah, per client for the year. How many total clients do you need?
Right. And that total revenue number, I can't tell you. Michelle's not going to be able to tell you. It depends on what you
Yeah,
want.
you have to figure it out right now, but that's part of the planning and scheduling
Yes.
for next tax season and next year right now. When you're
Oh,
feeling burnt
yes.
out, when you're feeling annoyed, when you're feeling you didn't price high enough, when you're feeling overworked and underpaid, that right now is the time to figure out what that number is.
Once you find out an appropriate minimum fee and you figure out the number of clients you need at that fee to meet your revenue goals, then at that point, you don't have to take additional clients unless they make sense and it's your choice.
Yeah, I mean, for
If
Sarah,
we're
it's 20 clients if her goal was 100 grand.
right,
That's it.
and absolutely. And under the model that a lot of accountants work under, there is this idea that if I don't help everybody, there's a risk I will not make enough money because we're not thinking proactively, we're thinking reactively. And that's why we need to shift that mindset. And that's why after right now, we need to start thinking about what is the firm that we want to look like. And we need to start early because some of these items take planning. So for example, if you want to have a niche, you found an area that sparks joy that people need help in. Well, you've got two major things you got to do now that season is over. One, get referrals, get connections in that niche to start to bring in more of your ideal client. And then second, and this is a big thing for me, enhance your education, focus your education in that area so that you truly are an expert. You just don't purport to say you are, you really are because you have the technical knowledge to back it up.
What are some areas, Tom, that maybe you can give an example of someone's going to enhance their education or their specialty that they came up with, just like William did or Sarah did? Can you run us through like a specific example? So if someone wanted to become a specialist in X, what are some educational conferences or CE things they should do to make that happen in the next, 9 months?
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of educational opportunities out there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of education that can be done like McDonald's. Cheap,
Yep.
quick, but it's not filling. Okay? And then and then you have quality education, which is not cheap and it's not quick. All right? And who you use as a provider really depends on kind of what you're looking to learn, but always look at the expertise. Is the instructor an expert? Is it someone that is highly regarded? There are a lot of people out there purporting to be tax instructors who I personally would never sit in a class and listen to. Just my opinion. So you really need to be intentional about what events you are choosing, who is the instructor. I've sat in classes where just plainly incorrect things are taught. I've had to walk out because I just couldn't sit there and listen to it anymore. And so just be very cognizant of it's not the cheapest and it's not the fastest. If you're getting your CE by taking it online and you're not even looking at the materials, you're just answering the questions to get the credit, you're cheating your clients and yourself, right? Yep. This is something you have to invest the time, the money, and the effort in to really learn and become an expert in what you're looking to do.
Yep. And I love how you said cheap and quick and not filling is not the way to go. That will not get you to specialty and being able to command $5,000 fees for all year round type clients. and only work with 20 or let's just say 40 clients and still have a practice doing 200, 250,000 a year. Just
If you
never
if
will
you
happen.
if you want to be someone's trusted advisor, you need to walk the walk. And to walk the walk is not just talking about it, it's doing it. And I believe so strongly that education is the foundation of of what you need to have a successful practice. You need a pricing strategy, you need a marketing strategy, yes. But if you don't know the technical, if you don't know what you're doing, you can bring everybody in and it's not going to work. So don't skimp on that item. It's so important.
Yep. Are there any off the top of your head quality education options that are very high investments that you would recommend?
Well, I do own a webinar company, Compass Tax Educators. We do very high quality webinar education. I'm the primary instructor, but I also select who I consider to be experts and up and coming educators in the field to help complement what we do. And we're very intentional about the education we offer. There's other also live events, and I also recommend for anybody who's looking at educational opportunities, live events, in-person events, let me clarify, are essential because you're going to get networking, you're going to talk to your peers, you're going to get ideas from the networking and the conversations you have there that you may not get anywhere else. And I honestly, one of my favorite in-person events that I speak at most years is the California Society of Enrolled Agents Super Seminar. It's in Reno this year in June. It's a really, really good event. Now, there's other events, of course, as well, but I can only speak to the events that I go to regularly. For example, I go there and take classes for my own continuing education. So, there are good events. There's a lot of organizations that offer it. But, do a mix of in-person, do webinars, but get exposure to different ideas, different ways of thinking, different topics.
Yeah. And looking for filling and quality versus cheap, quick, and not filling like McDonald's.
Yes.
Love it. Okay. Our list, for those of you taking notes, is pricing, reservation fees, and collecting money up front, and making sure that you have your payment situations in place before next tax season, having a niche or a specialty, prioritizing yourself, not killing yourself, limiting and saying, this is how many hours I'm going to work. This is how I'm going to go on vacation during tax season, actually booking the plane, figuring out where you're going to go on vacation, asking for referrals, enhancing your education and making sure it's quality education and not the fastest and not the cheapest, but going into more in-person education, the Reno conference and your Compass webinars. Those all sound like great options. What should someone consider about, and we've sort of talked about it, but what about like their client base? Like you said, the fear of losing clients, letting go of clients is terrifying. So if you have 400,000 or 500,000 clients, I mean, what have you seen from one of your firm owner colleague clients do to reduce the volume, to make that shift and change, to say, hey, my new minimum's 5,000 a year, like Sarah did?
What I've been recommending is that during season or after season, I mean, now we're after season, it would be after season, but next year during, come up with a way of assessing each client you're working with. And then if you do it in a uniform way, give each client a grade. And at the end of season, rank them. And then your priority is to keep the highest ranked clients. Now, often I'm asked, well, how do you rank clients? What metrics do you use? I don't think I can tell you what metrics to use, Michelle, because every firm owner has different priorities as to what's important to them, right? So the way I might weigh a client's value to my firm or their fit to my firm may be very different than somebody else's. But I'll give you some metrics that I think everyone should consider. Okay. One of the metrics is financial value, but it's not necessarily the exclusive metric. So here are some things to think about. Attitude, that's a metric. If you have staff and someone is rude to your staff, they're rude to you, that doesn't make it a conducive environment to help any of your clients. Communication's another metric. Is a client very communicative? Do they follow up? Or are they off the radar till October 12th? What's important to you? Record keeping. Do they keep decent records? Do they keep immaculate records? Or are the records so bad you can't do proactive work with them because they're scrambling at the last minute and they're on the back of the McDonald's receipt they got their Big Mac at? Timeliness. Do they value your time in the engagement? If you ask for something, do they give it to you promptly? Or do they give it to you 6 months later? Right? And these are just some of the attributes to think about. And for you, you may have the personality where you value communication. So you want all of your clients to be communicative, honest, and forthright with how you operate together. Then maybe you weigh that metric more. Or maybe you don't want to be constantly chasing clients for information. So then maybe timeliness is the most important metric or a higher up metric. Yep. How you weigh them is up to you. But I think those are some of the more, and you're probably coming up with others as I'm mentioning these.
Yeah, if you have your own ideas, write them down. But
yeah, absolutely.
How you have to grade your clients and
right.
That keep the A ones, and anyone that scored, I would say, a C, D, E, or F, they got to go.
Absolutely, right? And so when we're looking to transition to a new model of work, we want the highest folks with the highest average rating, right? And that takes into account our most important attributes in those clients are likely to be highly rated. And, some may say, well, that seems very mechanical, but it's also objective. Part of the problems that tax pros have with transitioning to change is they feel bad about letting go or not helping all of the clients they're used to helping. So therefore, we need to have some objectivity to the process on how they can make those choices in a more dispassionate way.
Well, that's the way, the dispassionate Tom way.
And there's passion behind it, right? Because
there is, because you're putting a lot of thought in, but you have to do it now. Because
intentional.
This is how you plan for next year. It's right now. And if you don't go through these lists, I guarantee that a lot of these you won't remember in 6 months, in 9 months from now. I also think another area to assess, and I think we're at like number 8, is the biggest mistakes that you just experienced over the last 4 months, 5 months, or however many months it's been. What are some of your personal mistakes that you saw your admin do or you personally did, be it on tax returns or just in general? Any mistakes that you can identify in your firm that you want to make a change to?
Can I add to that, Michelle?
Down. Yes, please.
Also, missed opportunities. So what items or things or planning would you have liked to have done with clients, but you couldn't because you were time pressed? So, for example, I saw an example in one of my online social media groups where a tax pro said, this client needs an amended return done. I just don't have the time to do it now.
Mm.
Right. And so that's something they had to give up. Or I'm too busy to properly make an extension estimate. So I just used the number, or I had the client make up their own number and they just filed it. But that's not doing the best work for the client.
Yeah. I think
That's
there's
because we're
more
not
more mistakes and missed
right.
opportunities because of the time pressure, like you shared earlier.
Yes.
Sharon caught errors on her returns when she went back after she had increased her price. I think you said from 200 to 600 or 695 or something.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's horrible, actually. The fact that there's so many people making mistakes, it's a missed opportunity for you to have increased your fee, to not have so much volume, and to get your life back and to go to Hawaii like Tom is, or his other client William. It's imperative to figure out the ways right now and identify the areas you made the biggest mistakes, where you saw some missed opportunities, and assess where were you the most time pressed, and how can you make these changes and set some boundaries for yourself, sort of like what we were talking about on, I don't even know if we put it as the number, I think 4, make the priority you. I always say with the clients that work with me, or even you, Tom, I always say, congrats on putting yourself first. Finally, you're taking care of yourself. You're putting your oxygen mask on first.
Right.
Kudos to you. So,
Michelle, I have to say, I have the opportunity, and I'm blessed in my career where it's gone. I think it's fair to say hundreds of returns prepared by other tax professionals. And some of the just blatant problems and errors, the only thing I can attribute it to is there is such a rush to get things done. Things are just missed or plugged. The client doesn't win in that model. If they have 45 minutes to sit down and get that return done, and if I don't have the information, well, we just kind of sally, same as last year, and move on, they're not getting what they deserve.
And it's not fair to them.
No.
And everyone here listening, I know that you want to help people.
Yes.
And a lot are people pleasers, but you can't bend over backwards to make errors to them and put them in a worse off position, because that's ultimately what's happened. Tom, number 9, another area to assess in their firm. We've got 2 more to go on how one can really make a plan and make a different schedule and assess where we can change for next year, but change it right now. What would you say it is?
So right now, get your calendar out, get your planner out, whatever tool you use to organize your time. I want you to pick 2 hours every week, same time, same day. Block it out now. Practice building. Zero out your calendar for those 2 hours. And when you get to it, the only thing you do in those 2 hours going forward, each week going forward for the rest of this post-filing season through next year, is strategize, make plans, and take action on how to transform your practice to the way you want it to be. Like, I want you to block that time now.
Yeah, and for that time, you can go through the other 8 items we just talked about and work on those. But this is what Tom calls his PPP. It's basically your personal PPP loan. Proactive practice planning. Which conferences are you going to go to? Which webinars of Tom's on Compass are you going to watch and learn? What specialty are you going to create? What is the revenue you're going to achieve next year? And work it backwards. How many clients do you want to work with? Not based on your current situation, but what you're going to have to change to. What vacation are you going to plan during tax season to prioritize yourself? Put your oxygen mask on first. Do all of that. And like Tom said, pick 2 hours. What's worked best for you? As you've grown over the last few years, what 2 hours on what day of the week did it work for you, Tom?
I generally leave Friday afternoons as my downtime for the week. And that's on my calendar. My assistant knows nothing gets booked on Friday afternoons.
Yeah.
Partially because I go out to dinner every Friday night and I don't want anything to interfere with that. But that's just my time to reflect. It's my time to say, hey, there's something I need to get done. It's my time to think about what needs to happen going forward for the next couple of weeks. And that's, to me, what I want to do. And if it's also time that I need for personal things, that's the time I use for that, if I have something I need to take care of. So that's the time I usually use.
I also love Friday afternoons, but I don't have any proactive practice planning. But I definitely have proactive, the Abundant Accountant planning podcast and ads and working on client homework assignments and editing. And really, I love Friday afternoons for that.
Michelle, that's a really good point. As a business owner, you have to put the time into your own business. You can't just do for others.
You can't. I can't just be there to serve the clients if I'm not serving you serve the clients by doing the planning. They go hand in hand.
I realized that there is just no way I could do what I do without taking time for my own business planning, development, and admin every week. It's just not possible. The same with tax practice owners. It's the same thing. We often, our own businesses can often come last, and they actually should be first.
Yeah.
Because if the business doesn't succeed, thrive, grow, then you can't really help anyone.
True. Yeah. It's the foundation. It's just when you don't think of it from that point of view,
Yeah.
All right, Tom, let's wrap it up and take it home. The last area to assess and plan and schedule for next year that you're going to do right now during this 2 hour a week proactive practice planning session.
And this is the one thing I just did for myself for the first time ever.
Really?
You ready? I hired help. So are you a one man or woman show? Are you afraid to give up control? I get it. I have all of these different things I do, and I never had help. And for the first time, it started in January, I have a part-time assistant, an executive assistant. And one of my goals for the first quarter of this year was to train that assistant to do the things that I need to do. And honestly, having done that has lifted not only my spirits, but has given me more space to do other things that I need to get done that have normally been pushed to the back burner. So it's okay to have help. And many of you do have help, but do you have enough help? I'm also going to go there. If you have
quality, it goes back to your burger. Is that cheap, quick, not filling help?
Right.
You pay your executive assistant a premium. I think it's really important to think about how much is that more space valued to you? How much, because it's lifted your spirit, has brought you more joy?
Right.
At home, at your Friday night dinners, during your 2 hour proactive practice planning session. That all has a price to it. And we have to assess that price in the value and what we're paying our help.
And by having staff do the things that we as business owners shouldn't be doing, we can actually focus on providing the high value services that those that we work with deserve. Because if we don't have that help, we're often stuck in things that it is a waste of our time and our expertise doing, which means either the high value services don't get done, or you're killing yourself working 70 or 80 hours a week trying to do it all. Neither of which, in my view, are acceptable options.
Totally agree. Well, Tom, thank you so much for sharing part of your 2 hours out of your week with us. It's been an honor to have you here, as always. So many golden nuggets, lots of thinking to do on this episode, and lots of action taking to block out that 2 hours starting this week and make a commitment to yourself. So next year isn't like this year. Is there anything else, Tom, that you would love to share with the listeners today before we sign off?
You're not alone.
Okay.
You're not alone. Have faith. Get a mentor. You can do this.
Thank you, Tom. Again, it was an honor, and I can't wait to have you here again in the future, very near future.
Thank you, Michelle. You have a great day.
Thank you all so much for joining Tom and I today on another amazing episode of the Abundant Accountant podcast. It's been an honor to be here with Tom and with you. And I really hope that you block out these 2 hours a week and put into action the things that you can really make a difference. So you can plan for next tax season right now, put your top 10 list of areas to assess, and really make your 2 hours of proactive practice planning very impactful and also very profitable. And if some of you need a little bit more help, I have been helping firm owners, be it bookkeeping, accounting, tax, have more freedom and have the time and money, not only to get paid up front and first, but confidently charge those fees you know you deserve. And I know that our systems worked. I've helped over 162 firm owners just in the last 2 years add an additional $10 million of revenue to their top line revenue. And you can create a firm that you've always dreamt of, just like they did. But it's up to you to take that next step. So head on over to the Abundant Call right now to book your session with me and my team. And we're going to talk about 3 main things. Right now, where your firm is at, and the things that are keeping you stuck, and maybe the things that didn't work out so well on the first half of this year. Where you want to be in your firm in your life to ensure you're paid upfront first, avoiding any pitfall along the way, and saving you a ton of money in the process by not having to collect AR, chase invoices, and not collect interest on that money. And number 3, the exact next steps you can take to double your firm revenue by the end of this year. Every one of our success stories had started with this call, and it's turned into more confidence, charging premium fees, doubling revenue, eliminating burnout, and feeling excited about your work and being in control of your future. So head on over to theabundantcall.com, and myself and my partner Denise look forward to talking to you. Have a beautiful day.